Welcome to Home Dad Chat, brought to you by the National At Home Dad Network. My name is Brock,
My name is Danny.
and we are here to talk about life as stay at home dads. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
No, I don't want much. I even love handmade crafts made of macaroni. Come on now, you should know me. Times I might eat too much. No worry about my weight. Got the dad bod rocking on me. Sketches on my feet. Cargo shorts look good on me. I'm a dad, that's what I do.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Man, I tell you what, first world problems and technical difficulties. We finally got the recording working. Oh, my goodness.
We
even
had
had this
30 minutes to
Oh.
get this thing done today. It
Oh.
was crazy. And we've done this a couple hundred times. My camera didn't work. And I'm like, what? It's working just fine, but
It's
I couldn't
gremlins.
get Zoom. It really is, because Zoom wouldn't see it. But then when I went out of Zoom to try to look at and make sure it's actually working, it would say, no, Zoom is using this. And I'm like, I shut Zoom down. So obviously,
I
yeah.
think so often, you think about all the things that, as parents we do like on a regular basis. And then like the one time it doesn't work, you're like, what in the, you just, are
Right.
you kidding me? Like,
It's like Christmas lights.
oh,
Why
yeah.
are they blinking? So,
The whole Bugs Bunny and the little gremlin and, that
mhm.
thing, like that's every time it happens, that's the image that pops into my head is this little tiny green gremlin thing, not the scary one from the movie, but the one from the cartoon. Ugh. But yeah, so I'm glad that we finally were able to get things back in place because today we've got a guest. What better way to be like, hey, we're just amateurs trying to figure this thing out than
Right.
by having all the technical difficulties when you're getting ready to have a guest on.
And just so you're aware, Calendly has been messing up as well. And it scheduled
Brilliant.
him in because I look at it in Central Time, but I set it up for Eastern. But he looked at it and he goes, wait, so I'm supposed to be there at 7:30 in the morning because it's 8:30
gosh.
Eastern? And I went, no, don't do that. Do not. I don't even want to text that early in the morning anymore.
No,
It's just
no.
too many kids going on. So it was, I'm like, yeah, we're pros, I swear.
I swear, yeah.
Man. But
Hey,
yeah, he's coming on.
all the grace in the world right there on that one.
And we've got Mother's Day coming up, which is cool.
Yeah.
But after that, we're starting another membership drive, which I'm pretty excited about.
I heard something about that. I got a little message from Keith Nagel, our president,
Mhm.
talking about that. Yeah, we're gonna start the June membership drive up, which gives everybody the opportunity to, have another chance at grabbing up some of the cool swag from back in February. So
Yep.
that's pretty exciting because it's a lot of it's basically the same things that are up for grabs, but just another
Mhm.
opportunity for people that maybe were like, oh, I missed out on that to get another get our chance at it. So that's exciting. And we'll
Yep.
definitely have posts showing up through social media for people to be able to see like kind of when that goes live. And of course, we'll have the commercial that we put in for the podcast here. But I mean, there were lots of guys that really like were excited. They signed up, they got their stuff, and
Yeah.
I was pretty excited about that.
And I don't like asking people for money, basically. I don't think anybody really does, but this is such a great organization. It kind of pushes me past that.
Right.
So, I mean, just the membership is good. Bumping up your donation to get some of the swag, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I want to say too, the membership drive is also including, you can get your ticket to Home Dad Con as part of that.
Yep.
And put that as part of the membership drive. So look into that for sure. And then I think we need to remind people that we have, for our regular listeners, that we do have a lifetime membership.
Yeah.
Which is something that I don't think we talk about often enough. It's simply $500 for a lifetime membership, and if you do the math on that, you're gonna come out on the good end of it. But also, it's a really excellent way to show your gratitude for the organization, your support of the network itself, and support of your fellow at-home dads.
Yeah.
So I
definitely.
really, like I said, I don't like asking for money, but this is really worth it. It's something that's really, really gonna take you where you need to be as a father.
All the opportunities that are there, it's just helping move the organization forward. So definitely excited for that. And then too, like, the shirt that's being made for Home Dad Con is
Oh
coming
yeah.
along. It's
Hmm.
freaking spectacular. Um, I kind of want to.
Right. Oh, I'm looking at it going, huh, yeah, I could wear that all everywhere.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and I don't want to we don't want to talk about it, right? We want to keep it a secret. You gotta
I
be at the convention to
mean,
see
we can
it.
talk about it enough to get people's mouths watering
To
for
see,
it.
but not, and it's not like a shirt we've ever had before, which I think is something we should definitely stress on. This is something that I'm looking at and go, whoa, oh, that's
It's
cool.
unique.
We're gonna do that. I
Yeah.
didn't know we could do that. Which is something we really tried to do previously. We're trying to give everybody unique artwork and an amazing shirt. They're proud to wear it, but it's difficult a lot of times to come up with something that, oh, another t-shirt, oh, cool, it's got this design on it. This year, yeah, this is definitely a step out of our norm. And I think everybody that sees it will be like, oh, yeah, that pops. That's what I want right
Yeah.
there.
It's a shirt that's gonna definitely make people out in public when you wear it do a second take on it
Hmm.
because it's got that ability to just really gonna be like, whoa, what? And then read it and be like, oh, it's talking about Home Dad Con? What is that?
Right.
So it's really exciting. Something else I wanted to put out there. So a few episodes back, we talked about doing the kids interviews for this summer,
Hmm.
and I've already heard from 3 or 4 dads, and gotten the hey, like my kids, I asked them and they want to be a part of this, and I'm like, that's great. And I've even gotten a few like, I hope I'm not too late, which I'm like, oh, I. I really appreciate you thinking that we just had a flood of people like just ask us to be a part of
Yep.
this because that is not the case.
And you're so nice. You're
Yeah,
so kind.
I appreciate the love and to think that we have that kind of popularity draw. However, reality sets in really quickly when you read that and go, no, that's not the case. Like I said, we've had 3 or 4 dads. I'm super happy that guys started actually contacting me because I was kind of wondering if anybody caught that we were doing it for a moment. And so it's still open. I really want to see just how many dads and kids we can get involved in this. So if
Hmm.
you're hearing this and you were like, I'm thinking about it, but you're not sure, then you need to definitely send me something
Jump on it.
because one, I want to get it organized here pretty soon. My summer starts in 2 months. So that's, or
Two
two,
months.
sorry.
I wish. You
My coffee
wish.
has not kicked in yet. Oh my goodness.
2 months.
2 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah, I wish 2 months.
You do not have 2 months, sir.
Yeah, yeah. In 2 months, I'll be back into 2 weeks before school starts again. I was kidding. Um, ah, anyway, yeah, in
I
two
love
weeks,
that.
I start my summer. And so I want to basically kind of get things put together so that when Danny's summer kicks in too, we can kind of get things rolling with doing the different interviews. And two, I've had a few dads who are like, hey, listen, like you are not going to be able to get my kid to get in front of a camera and participate in the way of just sitting around. And I'm like, that's totally fine. And so that's the idea. The other thing, man, I can't even talk this morning, is that you can, we'll have questions for you. You can just ask them, and I'm just basically going to thread it all together, and
Hmm.
it'll just be one really fun interview where the kids are just talking. So it's not so much that they have to be talking to other kids as much as it is just interviewing them about certain questions. So
Yeah.
please text me or message me through Facebook or Instagram or whatever you need to, or email me at podcast@homedad.org, and we'll get you on the list. And I'll be sending out an email soon with all the details on when we're going to do it and questions and all that good stuff. So, as we were saying, we're going to have a guest. This guest is somebody that actually lives in your town, Danny. So,
Yep.
tell us a little bit about this guy that we're going to have come on because I saw his Instagram account and I was immediately intrigued by it.
It's very impressive. I didn't meet him first. He was at the Juneteenth celebration, and I was out of town, and Marnie and the kids went, and she brought me home a painting. Now, I'm not a big art person. This is something I never thought I would say, that I have 2 pieces of his artwork on my wall.
That's cool.
I have artwork on my wall. Who the heck am I? But she brought it home, and it was amazing. I mean, it was just perfect. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, God, that is just beautiful. I mean, this is probably one of the best gifts that she's picked for me. She did really, really well. And I hope she hears that, because she needs to be reminded she does these things. But then I, went and started talking to him, and I mentioned, I've talked about stay-at-home dads on the local Facebook group and things like that. And he mentioned that he was an at-home dad. So he's been at home for a while, and I don't know exactly how long, but meet him at the local art shows and things like that,
Yeah.
and end up getting another piece. Like I said, I've got two now, which is mind blowing to me. But it was really, really cool talking to him, and we had a lot in common. But the biggest part, of course, being that he's just a really involved dad.
Yeah.
And
He's
at
an
one
at-home
point,
dad too, right? Like
yep,
that's yeah.
yep. And at one point, he just asked, he said, if you need a guest on your podcast. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, we've got a lot of things to put on the podcast between now and the convention. And if I do want to get all the nominees and all the speakers and everybody we get, we're going to be pretty tight this year. And I have people, asking a good bit. It's surprising. I'm like, yeah, let's just do it. Let's just get him on and have it on it. And like, what we're going to talk about is basically going to be fatherhood, of course, like we usually do,
Heck
but
yeah.
also just what he's done as an artist.
Yeah.
And also probably get into what he's done as a martial artist. So,
Oh, like that. All right.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's his name is Kiba, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Kiba
So
Freeman.
awesome. Kiba Freeman. So we'll have him on here in just a moment. So we'll be right back. Become a member of the National At-Home Dad Network, an organization focused on providing advocacy, community, education, and support, connecting with households where dad is the primary caregiver of the children. We do this through our webinar and podcast series, mental health support groups, regular online social events, as well as our annual convention. The National At-Home Dad Network is a 100% volunteer organization. Without the generous support of its members and the community around it, we would not be able to continue the work that we do. Becoming a member gives you access to past convention speaker presentations, the ability to vote for board members annually, and ensures that the organization's fees and bills are in positive standing. Oh yeah, it should not go unmentioned that there is some cool swag headed your way if you decide to become a member. For only $35 a year, your membership provides you with the exclusive content only we can generate, and you'll be supporting an organization that benefits families all around the country and world. By advocating for them, offering them community, providing education and guidance, and supporting them to grow in their parenthood journey. And one last thing, if you contribute $500 or more, you will become a lifetime member. Not only will you receive everything already mentioned, but also a certificate recognizing your status and an exclusive National At-Home Dad Network challenge coin with our trademark logo, Dads Don't Babysit. So, what are you waiting for? Become a member today. Hey everybody, and we're back. And as we were stating, we have our guest with us, Kiba Freeman. And man, I am so excited to talk with you, and especially about your artwork. I just found out about the martial arts part this morning from Danny telling me that. But man, thank you so much for enduring all the technical difficulties today to get you on the show. Tell us a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your family.
Sure. I go by Kiba Freeman, and I am a stay-home dad and a full-time artist during nap time. That's what I always tell people. Or when mom's home or not at work, that I can do some artwork. I live in Stevens Point, Central Wisconsin. I've been here since 2009. I'm originally from a small town in Illinois, right off the lake called Chicago. Maybe you've heard of it. Um,
No.
breeze by it a lot of times.
Saw it from the
And
highway, I think, but really, yeah.
I hear there's a
Nobody
lot of
stops.
there's a lot of bears that run around in that town. It's so small.
So that's where I'm originally from, and I tell people I grew up there for the first half of my life, and I've been growing up here at Stevens Point for this last half of my life, and building my family, building my business, uh, try to be a meaningful person, impactful person if possible. I don't really know how far you want me to go into this, but I can keep talking. I'm a talker.
Yeah, no. And
Yeah.
so you got two kids, you said?
Yep, I have two kids. I have a 5-year-old, going to be 6, Soraya, and she's brilliant. She's and I know as parents, we all think our kids are brilliant, but I really think like there's something like I was a smart kid growing up,
Hmm.
and she puts me to shame. Like she is way smarter than I ever was when I was like 3 years older than her, probably. Like she's
Nice.
pretty
Hey, there
brilliant.
is nothing
Um,
wrong doting on your kids, man. It's all
Right.
good.
and then my youngest Kai, he'll be two and in a week. Uh, what's today? Eighth, yeah, next week he'll be two. And he is the opposite of his older sister. He's full of energy. He wants to run around. He wants to climb everything. He's uh, he's probably going to be a track star if he wants to be because he's already freakishly fast.
Hmm. Yep.
He's not running efficiently currently. I was a track athlete, so I I'm like, man, he learned how to pump those arms and lift those knees. He is going to be gone. We won't be able to catch him.
He's
That's
ready to go.
awesome. That's awesome.
And so yeah, those Kai is my youngest. My wife Jenna. We've been married. This will be our a 10-year anniversary this year.
Oh,
So
congratulations, man. That's awesome.
kind of been rolling with, and yeah, I, living I don't know. I feel like I live a pretty amazing life because I get to hang out with my son all day, my daughter when she's not at school, 'cause she's in kindergarten, um, and kind of be like a pivotal person in their lives and all these pivotal moments I kind of like don't get to miss.
Hmm.
Which I feel like isn't the case for a lot of, well, it used to not be the case for a lot of dads in general, just because it used to be like the role of the dad is to go to work and not be
Right.
around. And it's like, I don't want that to be my role specifically. Sure, I can work. I actually really enjoy working. I like feeling accomplished and coming up with tasks and feeling fulfilled, but it's just a different type of work when I'm a stay-home dad, as you guys know.
Yeah,
So
talk about that a little bit. Like what brought you into the role of being an at-home dad? Because there's multiple different avenues for kind of taking on that mantle of being an at-home dad.
Mhm.
We've heard quite a few. But I mean, especially with, being an artist and things like that, like what was that transition like for you? Like how did that all come about?
So when me and my wife were before we even had kids, I used to always say, jokingly but not jokingly, that I it sounds fun to be a stay-home dad. I thought it would be great. I've always kind of had that mindset and energy, and she always thought I was joking. And then when we actually had kids, I was working. When we first had Soraya, I was working full time actually as a retail manager. I was working at Family Videos. I don't know if you remember those.
Family
Um,
video, yeah.
yeah, I used to manage a couple of them pretty successfully actually. My stores always did way better than the company average, so I was doing something right.
They were
And
being kind and rewinding for you.
yeah, it was an interesting atmosphere. And while I was working as managing family videos, I was also building my art business as well, and just kind of using the connections and things that I was learning, basically running. Because the way family video management works is like you basically almost act as if you're the store owners, and so everything that a store owner would probably do for a store, the managers to basically do for their locations. So when it comes to making sure payroll gets paid to the staff, making sure the bills are paid for everything, utilities, making sure the lawn care is happening, like that was like my
Yeah.
responsibility. And I had multiple stores. And so at some point I was like, well, what's stopping me from doing this for myself as an artist? But then to kind of get back to your original question of what maybe be a stay-at-home dad, I was working full time. We had our daughter, and we had for a half second we looked at like let's just see what childcare would cost, and it was basically one of our salaries.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if we're going to pay one of our salaries for someone else to basically be with our kid all day, I'd rather just be home. I'd rather be that person. I'd rather instill the things, the values that we want to have in our kids ourselves. Nothing wrong, nothing against anybody else out there that's like working in daycare and need that sort of thing. I just felt like if I'm going to pay that much, if it's going to cost my salary, I might as well just not work and just nix my salary and then be home and be meaningful and have that meaningful impact with our kids. And so when the time came, we just had a conversation, me and Jenna. We were just like, I was like, what do you want to do? You know, I've always said I want to be a stay-at-home dad. I'm stepping up to the plate here. I'm telling you, I still want that. I still think that's awesome. If you don't want to do it, that's perfectly fine. You have the option. I know you love working. I know you love your career. Like I can adjust because I'm an artist. I can adjust as I need to. So yeah, for the first like years or almost a year of Soraya's life, I did both. Daytime I was home with Soraya, and
Mhm.
then when mom got off work, I was off it managing the stores, and I did that for a good year as I was also wanted to build a buffering nest egg. We had a decent nest egg, starting out, but it's like, well, I can endure. We'll see how much I can endure for the next year of doing both because I was a salary worker, so I was working, 44 plus hours a week minimum. Um, and that wasn't including commute. If I had to go to my
Mhm.
other store, because my one location was in Stevens Point, the other one was in Wausau. And so depending on which store I had to go to, didn't include commute. And so it was like a lot of 6 days or 7 day. I would work basically every day and all day basically, um, and get home, be exhausted. And then eventually wind down from that, um, and switched over when I got to the point where I was like, the art that I'm making and the money I'm making off of this, doing this very part-time, like I mean like not even part-time hours doing art, was starting to add up a lot more. And I was like, I bet you if I just take some of the time that I'm putting it at this retail store and put that half of that energy into my business and the other half into, my kids, obviously, then, well, at the time, just one, um, I'm pretty sure I can make some big waves. I can make this work for me. I think the things that I've learned from managing different retail and food service and all these different locations, I put it into my business, and then I can effectively make a schedule that works for my life. And that's what I've been doing for the last several years.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it sounds a lot like some of what I went through when we decided to, you know, take and move me
Mhm.
into the at-home dad life because yeah,
Mhm.
salary and all that
Yeah.
was crazy. So
Not me, man. Not me. I don't even know dads did this.
I didn't either.
I
I
love the way that your wife told you, Danny, because it was like,
Shoot.
here's a
I was like,
cigar, here's some scotch, by the way, you're the at-home dad
you're
now.
doing it. I mean, we were sitting there and I said, we have two and I wanted 10 kids. I could have had 10 kids if I'd started earlier, man. I love having kids
Danny wanted a
and
Mercer army.
I do. Yeah, I
I
want a
understand that.
team, but just I got too old and, just just I don't want to have kids, in kindergarten in my 70s. That'd be bad. But yeah, but I told my wife, I said, honey, I am so touched that you would be willing to give up your career for our family to stay home with the kids. It's just I really I was going to cry. It was such because she had a really good solid mindset on her career. And
Mhm.
I'm a job hopper. I got ADHD. I'll do something about a year. I'm gonna get bored and go do something else. And I'm like, this is amazing. And she slid that drink over to me. She goes, no, not me. And I'm like, not me. I can't do this. Dads don't do this. And it literally, I'd never even heard of it.
Mhm.
It had never even entered into my mind that you could. And again, you know, ignorance is bliss, right? And I'm like, yeah, no, I can't do this. She's, no, you can. And I got to tell you, it is the best decision that we ever made. I love doing this. I have had some of the best times. And like you said, those moments that you get to spend with your kids, and they only get better.
Yeah.
You have rough moments, of course. I mean, I got two teenagers now, so we got some
Yeah.
moments, right? But
Right.
still, it's just awesome, and to be a part of their life. I mean, my dad was never a part of my life, and my stepdad was not a part of my life at all. And it just being around them all day long, and it really, really just fills me with joy. So I get it now. I had
Mhm.
no idea, 15 years ago, whatever it was. I had no idea what was going on. But yeah, but I love it that like because Brock impressed me with his story. But I love it too that you kind of did the same thing. And not only did you want to do it, but you planned for it, which I
Mm,
think a lot of people don't really recognize. You got to plan for kids. No, no, no. You need to plan for kids. You need to make sure
Yeah.
you've got, like you said, a nest egg, especially if you're going to start your own business. I have to imagine being an artist can be kind of, feast or famine, even where,
Yeah.
there's times when like with any job you own or any business you own, where you're not getting everything you want. So having that plan, I'm very impressed with that when anybody would do that. So I wanted to
Yeah,
say
it
that
definitely it
that's
goes in seasons,
Mhm.
like you said, any like kind of entrepreneurial atmosphere, you kind of figure out what your seasons are, your lows and your highs, and when you feast, you don't eat all of it, you save some of it, you put some in
Right.
the freezer, like,
Right. Right. Right.
uh, and you make sure you're good for when it's a little bit lighter. And so because I was doing that while working at Family Video, like in managing and doing other stuff too, I was just like, man, I'm putting a lot of this energy that I was putting into someone else's business, and I was getting a percentage, a
Yes.
small percentage of the profits,
Right.
And I like to think I was doing really good. And then I was like, well, I can have the basically the whole thing when I'm doing it for myself. I have all the other expenses as well, obviously, and and the only the main difference is it's just me. It's just me that's accountable for myself.
Hmm.
And if I am lazy and if I don't do something, then the main difference is it's not just me that's impacted. My
Yeah.
family is impacted.
Yeah.
For the most part, we can get by really without what I make in art, just because Jenna, she works for the UW Stevens Point, and so she makes pretty good salary, because she's kind of pivotal there. Um, and we've gotten better at negotiating for her. So it's
Excellent. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I gotta say,
But
man, this artwork you got here though, this stuff is jaw dropping. Like for real. Like I love
Yeah.
murals. So I'm from Cincinnati and
okay.
we actually have one of the country's largest outdoor art shows called Blink that takes
Mm,
place in October. And, people come in from all over the world. They invite people to come and basically like they'll give them an entire side of like a old brick building and say, have at it. Like
hmm
do whatever. And so we've got 100+ murals downtown that you can just walk around and see. And I mean, they are street to the peaks of whatever building they gave them, and they're gorgeous. And then there's light installations and all kinds of other things that take place. But I'm looking at what you're doing here, and like, for me being, I'm a really like I love the outdoors, and I was looking at the one where you did the like it's a warehouse with like a guy with like binocs and a Jeep or whatever,
hmm
and I'm just like, dude, like
Yeah. That
that
was
is
cool.
a awesome, just amazing design, and I mean you got so many different things here. Even I mean you got stuff from that big all the way down to like smaller pieces and stuff, and it's just so impressive. Like what got you into doing this kind of art? Because I mean, were you a graffiti artist growing up kind of deal? Because I see some of that in what you're doing. What was your journey into this world of doing these murals and things?
Yeah. It's man, where do we start? How much time do we have? No. uh,
It's like, what
the
book do I start writing?
Right. No, because there's some interesting journeys, man. I, a lot of artists will say they've been artists for ever, for as long as they can remember, and that's also my case. But specifically with spray painting, so quick backtrack. I went to UW Stevens Point, and I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree there. As an undergrad student, I hated painting. Um, if you would ask me if I like painting or landscapes, I would have just laughed at you because I was doing film photography,
Hmm.
candid shots of people,
Nice. Yeah.
um, and I was doing printmaking, specifically woodblock printmaking. So I would draw an image on a piece of wood, I would carve it out, basically making a giant stamp, and then I would make different variations or replicas of a certain design depending on what I wanted to do. Like if it was a person, I might do different feels or moods based on color scheme that I use and that sort of stuff. Um, and that's what I did. I did printmaking and I did film photography, both of which are pretty time intensive processes, because printmaking the whole making a block and then trying to get replicas, basically a copy machine, trying to get replicas either the same, or if I want them to be different, why do
Hmm.
I want them to be different? What effect am I trying to get? And then the film process, just being in a dark room, I stare at a clock for hours and never know what time it is. And so, but when I was an undergrad, I studied abroad and I went to Italy for a part of the summer.
Hmm.
And while in Italy, I came across artists using spray paint to create. They were just doing it on the street. They were just doing like kind of like pop art and superheroes and Colosseum and space scenes, kind of like those spray painting things you might see videos of and whatnot. Or if you go to like big cities like New York or something like that, you might see some guys like that. And I was super interested in the process. Um, I just all of my classmates were like, "Oh, I want to take all of these home. These are so awesome." My mind was like, "How are you doing this? What are you doing? This is an interesting process." because I don't know if you picked up on this yet. I'm very process oriented artist. I like these deep detailed processes um, and then figuring out ways to manipulate them. So I got into
Mhm.
spray painting because I saw that, came back, and I was like, I'm gonna try that when I get home. It's gonna be awesome. Well, I was still in school. I didn't even get to try it until I graduated. And then I was like, I actually got time. I wanted to try this, and I've been trying this since 2014. And the reason I started doing murals is because I was out somewhere doing some live painting in a parking lot, and someone came out from actually from Family Video, and they was like, "Hey, have you ever painted a garage?" And I was like, "No, but I'm pretty sure I can figure it out. I got a degree in problem solving, so I can I can figure it out." Um, that's what I call my art degree, problem solving degree.
Yeah, problem
Um,
solving.
I mean, it's essentially what it is. The professors give you a certain problem, make this image or do this design or this style, and based on how you solve that problem, you get a grade.
Hmm.
I did well enough in problem solving that I got a degree. So I have a degree in problem solving. I just also make things look pretty. Um, and and so after, when that person asked me if I could do a garage, I had never painted anything that large. And so I came back and I painted my garage door as a test, and that was my
Hmm.
first garage paint. That was my first mural. Um, and then and then I painted theirs for money, and and they paid me I think like $500, something like that. This was like several years ago. Um, and and that was like my first like entry into the, and that was right before Soraya was born. Actually, maybe like 2 weeks before Soraya was born, I did that mural.
Yeah.
Um, and from there, I just kept getting tapped in a little bit, like, oh, I like painting large. What else can I do? How else can I make money doing this? And then eventually I kind of got into the loop of this is pretty lucrative. If you can do it quickly, if you can do bold and unique images and things that are meaningful to people, they'll pay good money for it. And so the fact that I don't really, slight ADHD, but I'm really impatient when it comes to certain things. And so I paint fast because I want to get my idea out.
Hmm.
And it's almost like I'm chasing it so it doesn't go away. Like, because as soon as
Yeah.
I'm like, kind of done with it, then I'm like, I'm done with it. Like I'm that type of artist. I'm not the type of artist that'll be like mulling over it for years. I'm not sure if it's done. I'm like, okay, this is my idea. I got it
Hmm.
out. I am done with it.
Yeah,
You know,
speaking,
and
so I'm curious of
Mhm.
that with that kind of process. Like, so is it a process where like are you outlining and kind of like sort of like color by number type of deal where like you've got this idea in your head and you sort of outline it and mark it like, all right, this section is kind of this color and you kind of do it that way, or are you doing it like a section at a time where you're like, all right, like I'm just gonna do this part. Like how do you come about that? Like, are you doing something on paper first and then putting it onto the material, or is it all just coming out at once and going on?
So it's kind of a mixture, right? And so it's I come up with an idea and I outline it, whether it's on a smaller canvas that's similar proportions to the wall. So say it's a 10 by 10 wall, it's a square. So just a canvas that's a square, I would do the design on. That's what I used to do. Now I do it on my iPad because it's digital. It's easier to manipulate things. If I want to change a color, I don't want that color. We'll try this color. I like that color better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easier. It's less wait time. Again, I'm kind of impatient, so trying to
Hmm.
figure the most efficient ways to do it. Once I have the idea laid out, then I take it to the wall. I'll map it out with either I'll project it to get like the big things that I want lined up, or I'll grid it and it's called like a doodle grid, and I'll draw it out and I'll use those marks to indicate where things go. And then I'll just paint it. Now when I'm painting it, I have this guideline, but it's not concrete, right? For the most part, it comes out pretty much how that design looks, but I also leave room for embellishments as I see fit as I'm painting. Because
Yeah.
going from small to big, you'll notice different things like, oh, that's unnecessary there. They're not going to see that from the actual viewing distance of this mural. So I don't necessarily I might not need to add that. Or, oh, I can add these things here, and it gives it this kind of feel that you can't really replicate in a smaller design, but you can in a bigger design. So I leave room for that kind of open interpretation and adjustments. And so in a way, I have a guideline, but then I also just let whatever spills out. And so it's both of what you said, bro.
That's awesome. Oh, I love that. That's some of the stuff that I see when Blink is kind of getting rolling. Like there are artists that come in like a couple months beforehand especially
Hmm.
ones that are like overseas and stuff like that. And it's really interesting to see how their process works because a lot of them do most of their artwork in the evening because they can do
Hmm.
the projection thing like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
so it's kind of fun if you're somebody who like keeps an eye on what's going on in towns. And this I feel like this happens in a lot of places when you have an artist that's you see them start setting up scaffolding and everything else. I'm like, ooh, okay.
Hmm.
Like, are you doing this during the daytime or the nighttime? Because at some different points, like I want to make sure like I get to walk by and see this process of this like creation take form. And so I that's always kind of fun. Like we were well in Cincinnati, we did Home Dad Con a few years ago, and I took the guys around the city and showed them a bunch of different murals that are here in town. And on the other side of the river in northern Kentucky, where we were actually staying, there was a mural being actually put together by a guy, and so it was really fun because they got to see some of it, and then they were like, "We want to see the end product." So I had to make sure like I went back to like find when it was done so that I could snap pictures and send it to them so they could actually see the
Yeah,
final product of it. So yeah, that's
that's
awesome,
awesome.
man. So along with the artwork, you also are martial art as well, from what I understand.
Yeah,
What's like where did that kind of come into play, and what level are you in your martial art?
sure. So when I moved to Stevens Point, uh, and I in 2009, and I was picking out my classes for school at university. One of the things I saw, because we have the general requirements that all students have, depending on your track, and then you also have just like your major requirements. And so I always took a good balance of some general stuff that I just have to have for the degree, and some things that I needed for the major. But I always had at least one class that was a just because class, and then sometimes that class overlapped with a general requirement or another requirement, and sometimes it didn't. I just wanted at least one class every semester that I just naturally look forward to, not because I had to take it.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed my freshman year was they had a class called Taekwondo, and I've always been interested in martial arts. I'm a big martial arts fan in general. Kind of general big names, Bruce Lee, super cool. Jackie Chan was probably my favorite. I loved
Oh
watching
yeah.
Jackie Chan and movies and Rumble in the Bronx and Rush Hour, all those different things. It was just awesome to see like this guy using his body in this way. And I guess it's kind of the artist in me too, using their body in a way that
Hmm.
seems it's not normal because not everyone's doing martial arts. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so alluring or appealing if everybody was doing it. But because this person is doing it and it's so unique, I find it super interesting. Taekwondo was an option as a student for a credit, nonetheless. And so I took it freshman year, and I've literally not stopped doing Taekwondo since.
Nice.
Basically, every semester I took a variation of that same class. And the way it was kind of set up, it was set up through a martial arts school in town here um, called Stevens Taekwondo, and they had a connection with the university and the YMCA. And so the class was actually at the YMCA, but you got a university credit for it. And they kind of had basically anybody that wants to take the class could sign up for it. And as you took the class, you could progress and your knowledge. So because I take it like every semester or every other semester, I was learning more. I was able to test for different belt ranks and whatnot. And then eventually I changed when I wasn't doing it at the university anymore because it didn't after like 4 or 5 or 6 times it's like, okay, I'm really just taking this and just spending the money to take this. I might as well just go to the school, the dojo. And so I went to the school and which was not far from the university. It's actually like across the street. And I trained there for a bit. And then I just kind of wanted to do more with it. Because I mean I was like 20 or 22 and I was like, I can be pretty good at this, I think, At this point I had already did track and field for I did it for 3 years in high school and 2 years in college. I was a sprinter, I was a jumper, and then in college I was a decathlete. So I did most of the events,
Yeah.
and so I was athletic, and so I kind of knew my physical strengths and weaknesses for the most part. Especially as a decathlete, you learn those pretty quickly in all the different events, um, or as they call it, a multi. And so I just kept doing martial arts, and I was like, I feel like if I really gave this an effort. I could be pretty good at this. I could. Let's see how far I can go. And so I, why not shoot for the top? I said, let's try
Mhm.
training for the Olympics.
Nice.
Uh,
Okay.
All right. Now,
and
when you
the
said
school out,
shoot for the top, man, I was
Yeah,
not thinking
I was
Olympics. I
no,
have to
I did
tell
not
you,
either.
you got ambition, man.
That's
That's the go. I
awesome.
didn't mean to
I,
interrupt though, but I'm like Olympics. All right.
I
So go ahead.
one thing you'll probably learn from any of the stories I tell is I'm a very ambitious person, and I'm also a person that once I have an idea, I can't let it go, and that works really well for my art too. I have this idea, I have to do it, or like I can't like I'm restless. I'm like I got to get this done, but then like because I really want to get it done. Once it's done, all right, I'm done with it. All right, cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm not attached to it anymore because the process is what's for me. But in martial arts, the school I was at, they weren't really, they were fine for a very, very introductory level, but not for like high competition level. And it happens that another school was opening up in town that was going to be more focused on competition. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to try it. I'm going to try out this school called Five Rings Martial Arts. And if I hate it, then I'll just be back at my other school. No big deal. I mean, I'm 21, whatever, 22 at the time. Wouldn't hurt to see what the difference would be. Well, I've been at Five Rings for over 10 years now. 10 years this past December.
Wow.
And at this point, um, I I mean, we gave it. I would say I can honestly say we gave it as great of an effort as I probably could in this area. Um, Now, if I would have wanted to move or commute a lot to go to a different training facilities, I probably could have gotten a little bit further, but I am not mad at being a bronze medalist at the national championship, um,
Wow.
and being
Congratulations.
competitive.
Yeah.
Being one of the few Wisconsin Taekwondo athletes that are globally ranked, nationally ranked, and competing in different countries. And like I wasn't the top tier. Don't get me wrong, but I can compete with some of the best of them. I
Hmm.
fought against Olympians, I fought against Olympic qualifiers, and held my own. Like
Yeah.
could have gone either way. Actually, like it was pretty even for some. And some of the other fights, I knew I was outclassed. I knew I was out, matched, but I learned from it. And then the next time I saw them, I knew better and I did better. And
Hmm.
because I was kind of an underdog in most of the things, because Wisconsin doesn't have a huge Taekwondo presence in national or international settings, everyone just kind of wrote me off a lot of the times. It's like, there's no name from Wisconsin. Okay, whatever. And then come to find out, it's the gold medal match in the first round because we were going blow for blow,
Yeah.
and then they're like, crap, I didn't realize I was gonna have to fight that hard in the first round.
Hmm.
um, and so yeah, I've been doing martial arts for a while. Right now, I don't compete anymore. My last big competition I did was in 2019 before the pandemic, and it was right. I had to get ACL reconstruction surgery on my knee, and
Yeah.
then I did PT through 2019, and then I did that last competition, and I got bronze, and I kind of hung it up from there. I was kind of after I had my daughter, I knew once I had kids, I wasn't going to have the same energy or attention span when it came to my martial arts training. So again, attentionality, we talked about like planning out when you're going to have kids. We planned to have kids after I was basically going to be done with the high level competition because I was traveling everywhere. I
Hmm.
saw a lot of the different states, and I went to Canada, Montreal a few times. I went to Costa Rica. Like I was traveling to fight, to compete, and to train. And you can't really do that as a family person. I mean, you can, but
That's
I didn't
really
want to do
tough.
that as a
Yeah.
family person. And so once my daughter was born, I knew that I was like, it's my heart is not going to be in it like it was. And I knew that. I said it to my coach, my friend Steve. I was like, look, once we have kids, it's probably done. Like I don't want to say for sure, but I know for sure that I'm going to give my all into being a parent, and so I can't give my all into being a parent and give my all into being a martial artist. Those are conflicting
Right.
things. Um,
Yeah.
at least the way that I want to be a parent. And so,
I love that
yeah,
you I love that you had the insight to see that though. Like, because I think for some people that's a difficult thing to step away from when you are highly competitive and you're involved in something, like taekwondo and competing
mhm,
to, when you take that next step and you're like, all right, like this is we're building a family and that kind of thing. And
mhm,
I think a lot of people have a hard time making that decision. Like, do I continue down this thing that I've been doing and I enjoy doing it? Even though also at the same time, like I'm really looking forward to being a parent, and it's like,
Yeah.
how do you balance those two things out? And so I think that that's just a great perspective to see that, you were able to basically shift gears and be like, all right, like I've done this. I'm happy where I'm at and I'm
Hmm.
ready to set that aside. And now my new focus is, raising these young kids and, you know, basically showing them like my ambition can be passed on to them for them to do what they want to do, like and have that
Hmm.
Exactly.
ambition. And I think that you embody that in such a way, like just like listening to you talk about the things that you do, like your kids are in for a real treat as they get older and they see that in you. And I hope that, I think we all do. We hope that our kids just like soak that in and see
Yeah.
those ways that like, oh, like, my parents did this, like, and I know that I can ask them about this, or I feel confident enough to move forward in something that looks really tough, but you know, there's a way to get through it. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate you telling us about that.
And there's a saying that once you become a parent, you're simply memories for your child, which
Hmm.
is a very sobering thing when you think about
Interesting.
it. You kind of have to put yourself aside. You have to
Yeah.
take what you have and what you are and go, okay, so from now on, I'm a memory for my child. And what I want my child to remember, what I want my child to look back and go, yeah, every time we did this thing, my dad was there, you know? And it's very, very, well, like I said, sobering because suddenly you're like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, man, I got to grow up. Maybe you didn't have to. You sound like you had your head on your shoulders, but I know I had to, and I had kids late.
Mm.
But you reach that point where you have to look at the things, and we've talked to other dads too, who like had their hot rod, right? They had their little super fast car, and they got in college or
Hmm.
whatever, and whatever it is. And some of them, for the majority, they were like, "Yeah, I had to trade it in. I had to get a car that would fit my kids." We have had people. I'm still waiting, trying to get him on the show, who has his Mach 5, I think, Mustang, and super fast, and he has a roll bar in it, and everything's cool, and he's got specifically brackets set in the back seat so he can put his car seats in there. And I'm
Mm.
like, all right, buddy,
Yeah.
you're not making the same sacrifice, but you're still doing the work, right? But the point of it being that we reach a point where that's really what our life becomes, and
Yeah.
especially as an at-home parent, because that's your daily. That's every
Yeah.
single day, getting your kids up, getting them fed, get them dressed, teaching them to solve their own problems and to move them forward. And hopefully, I know for me, I'm this way. My kids will say a lot of times, I'm like, well, you need to, put your shoes in the shoe hole or whatever. You got to do this thing. And they're like, well, you didn't. And I was like, yeah, I want you to be better than me. I expect you to do better than me, man. You can't throw this back in my face. I know my faults. I need you to not have those, right? So,
My mom used to say, what's the saying? She used to always say, "Do as I say, not as I do."
mhm.
Um,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
and
For sure.
looking back, it's like I get it, but also I try to flip that a little bit with our kids, and like, yeah, I want you to do as I say, but I am also working to be that visual aid. Like, I
Yes.
am also doing this, and my daughter, she'll call me out, like, "Oh, you didn't do this, Dad," or, and you know what, I didn't. Thanks for the correction.
Hmm.
I'll put those away too.
And that's so big. That's so big because to have that humility to do something, make a mistake in front of your kids and to look at them and go, I'm sorry. That was not
Yeah,
what I meant to do. I'm trying to do better or what have you. That's a great point about being a parent. And I love that you brought that up because it's so important to be able to look at your kids and go, yeah, I'm not perfect.
I'm a
I messed
human.
that up. Yeah, right. Right. I'm a
Exactly.
And
human.
I tell my daughter, I'm like, you know, especially if we're having a hard time with something, or she'll be 6, so
Hmm.
she's very intelligent. She's very smart. She looks older than she is because she's so tall. She's articulate. She's been reading for like 2, 3 years or something like that. Like,
Nice.
she's been reading for a very long time for not even being 6 yet. But she's 5. She'll remind me that she's 5, and then when she's done with her tantrum or her being dramatic or anything, have a conversation. I'm like, look, you got to work on this together. We can both get better at this. Like, what do you need me to do to help mitigate this next time? Or what would you have liked done? what caused this? And sometimes you can't explain it, and sometimes you'll be like, I just wanted a hug or something. Okay, just say that. You can, you
Hmm.
know,
Yep.
and then we'll have the conversation about like just everything, boundaries, stuff like that. And I'm always kind of, I think if she doesn't take anything from me in all her life, is that she can only control herself, and she can't control anything else anybody else do. I say that
Yep.
all the time. It's like I feel like I'm a broken record just all the time. Just
It's a good thing to
why
remember
isn't doing
though.
this? It's like
Yeah.
remember, you can only control yourself. It might be upsetting that this thing didn't happen, and that's fine. Feel those emotions. That's great. But what we can't allow you to do is make that a physical reaction. You know,
Hmm.
we can't allow that to, because now you got to be able to control yourself regardless of what anybody else does.
Yep.
You know, and because she's like again bigger, she's strong, she's smart, she's athletic. You can't really, go too much out of control because then I have to like step in, like, and be that in between, whether
Yes.
it's for your safety, for mom's safety, for Ty's safety. Um, and sometimes it's tough, but a lot of times it's just like, I mean, it's great. Like, it's where I'm teaching Soraya, she's learning to ride a bike without training wheels right now, and that's tough for her. And as we're going, she's has a hard time balancing. And I'm like, I'm trying this towel method that I saw, that Jenna saw online, where I'm holding her with a towel and trying to help her figure out balance. And she keeps saying like, I'm scared. I don't know, I'm scared to do this. I'm like, it's okay to be scared, but we can
Hmm.
still get through it. Like, we can do this scared.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm scared of dropping you, yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to drop you. Like,
Right. Right.
we can do it scared, but we can still do it because I know the
Exactly.
joys of riding a bike. I love riding a bike, and I
Yes.
remember learning to ride a bike, and it was terrifying. and,
Hmm.
and but now I'm like, yeah, I get on a bike, I can ride no
Yeah.
hands, I can ride fast and slow, whatever. Um, I'm like, but she's interested in riding, and she keeps getting on. She keeps saying, I'm scared, but then the next
Yeah.
day, can we practice riding the bike again? Like
Yeah.
earlier today,
That's the
Yeah.
key.
Yeah.
like,
That's
can we
the
Yeah.
get a bike
key
and come
right
to the
there.
school?
That's
That's the
great. That's
key.
great. Yeah.
Yep.
I
That's the
tell my
key.
kids, you can do hard things,
Yes.
right? It's like I understand, like you said, this is scary, and I know a
Yeah.
lot of things scare me, but you can do it. It's okay. You
Mhm.
could do it. I love it that you can do it scared. I love that.
It was scared.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
definitely.
it definitely, I had to be brave in order to go and try to fight these other adult men that are trying to take my head off. Like,
Hmm.
that's scary.
Yeah.
You know,
And there ain't
because,
nothing like getting hit in the face. There's
yeah,
nothing like that. There's nothing
yeah,
in the universe. Bam. Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I know what I'm doing. Okay.
yeah.
Sorry. I don't want that
Wake
to
up,
happen ever.
call.
Again.
I
You
used to
know,
go to a weekly boxing Bible study actually. One of the big churches here in town had a Bible.
boxing Bible study.
Yeah, so you got
All
to
right,
do
continue.
like it was like an hour's worth of like fundamental boxing. And I
Jesus,
mean,
Jesus, Jesus. Sorry.
yeah,
I
exactly.
can't get it in my head.
Man, one guy had Bible like put on the front. You got thumped all the time. Anyway, um, but no, like you would go to that, and so you would learn the different like fundamentals and what it feels like to get punched and how to like maneuver through that, and then we'd have a Bible study afterwards. But man, like sparring with guys who were just like, this is my opportunity. Like, I'm gonna take this
Hmm.
moment. I mean, I got socked in the gut a few times by a guy who was like, what? Who pissed
Hmm.
in your Cheerios this morning? That hurt. Like,
I took Aikido for a long time. Now, I didn't even start until I think probably older than you are, Kiba. So I was mature, let's say,
Mhm.
and it was great. And I loved Aikido. It just really fit with my mindset, harmony and all that stuff. And I just really enjoyed it. So we didn't throw a lot of punches.
Yeah.
We'd fake punch, but we really didn't train punching and stuff like that. It wasn't anything like Taekwondo in that. But we would have every couple of months or so, we would put on gloves, headgear, mouthpiece, and just, because you need to know. Because if you're out
Hmm.
on the street and somebody hits you in the face and you stop, well, okay, you just lost that fight. Bad things happen if you panic or if it staggers you. And it was surprising. Some of the nicest, kindest people in the dojo, you punch them in the face and you just see them. I mean, their nostrils would flare and they would just go and lose control. And again, that's
Hmm.
something that you need to learn. You need to be able to, no, you can take that and not lose control because you have to maintain
Hmm.
control of yourself. And
that's
you've
You
said that
have to.
already.
that's the
But
one thing. The first time I got in the ring, the ref that was in there, he was also our instructor, told us, he was like, you need to remember to breathe, just breathe. Because the moment that
Yes.
you stop
Yes.
breathing and someone punches you, like you're out for the count. Like most people that get knocked down typically, like right off the bat, is because they forgot to breathe. And I've transitioned that into part of parenthood. My wife
Yep.
and I was talking with her because like so many times your kids just do stuff and you're like, what the like and you just get
Hmm.
like insanely crazy about it and like your brain just switches to like this rage machine. And the thing that my wife and I both have done to each other with, keeping us on track is we'll just be like, breathe, just breathe. And it's like, all right, I'm gonna take a couple seconds here, breathe, okay, and re-engage. All right, hey there, so and so, like
Hmm.
maybe
Yeah.
we need to look at this a different way. And just that
Yep.
few seconds of pause to actually like bring life into your body after you just like
Hmm.
all this is, it's a huge switch in your head for the emotions that are about to take place. And so, yeah, it's
It's
really wild how like
incredibly
things,
important.
it's really wild how things on the mat, things in the ring, like that, when you're training, that kind of stuff, how those translate into parenthood. And I,
Hmm.
I appreciate it so much.
One of the things that one of the things I tend to do, that is also something that I was pretty decent at in Taekwondo, is redirecting or redirecting. And and I'm not the most flexible person by any means. I have very limited hips, but the things I was pretty good at was being balanced, staying on my feet. It was really hard to knock me down, and being able to redirect or move around things. And so with Soraya, some of the things we should try a lot of, and it still works for the most part these days, is when it seems like she's bubbling up or she's about to have like an outburst or something, redirecting that attention real quick, because then it forces her to take a breath. Because that,
Yes.
we talked about breathing, right? She'll be getting flustered about Kai not wanting to play with her, or Kai wanting to play with the white car, and she wanted the white car, and
Hmm.
whatever the issue is, like saying something that's completely off or to change her mindset, be like, "Oh, I love your green shirt," and she's clearly wearing a bright pink shirt. She's like, she looks at her shirt like, "Wait, am I wearing green? Like, this is the pink shirt, Dad." But in that moment, she pauses and takes a breath to be like, "Wait, what is happening? No,
Yes.
this is pink. What Dad, are you losing
Right.
your mind? This is pink."
Right. You're right. Are you
Or,
going crazy? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
right,
that
or just
works
like,
from the youngest kids too. It's amazing because they're rolling into that getting it just, yeah, and like, yeah, well, hey,
Uh-huh.
what about this? And they're like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, we'll talk about that thing. And
I
it's amazing. Like
we
you said,
I
just
had that I had
redirecting.
that issue
That's good.
this morning actually with my daughter Ruby. She was like, "Oh, today I'm the classroom leader." And I was like, "Oh, cool. What does that mean?" She's like, "I get to bring something to like show and tell." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." And so she's bringing in these like little turtles that she has like stuffies and things like that. And I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." She's like, "I really hope that they like actually like use their proper names for them." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, last time I took my 3D printed dragon, and the whole time all the boys kept calling it an alligator, and it drove me nuts." And I was just like, yeah, because they're dumb boys. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. I like, and she's like, yeah, but they don't do it with anybody else but you. And I'm, or but me. And I'm like, well, that's because, they're boys. Like boys sometimes, or kids in general, like little kids, like they just
Mhm,
pick one person and they're just like, I'm gonna try to poke the bear. And it's like,
mhm,
I know with her in particularly, like her intellectual level for a second grader is way above her classmates. I went to the
mhm,
zoo with them last week and witnessed it firsthand. And I see the frustration that she deals with because a lot of these kids, like, they're just, they're not there at where she's at. And so it's frustrating for her. And I said, hey, you know
Hmm.
what? I was like, it doesn't really matter how these kids react to what it is. Like, present what you are, you know what it is. They're being silly, and in the grand scheme of everything, like it's something that you can honestly just brush off and move on. They're just trying to like, get a reaction out of you, or whatever it is.
mhm.
And if you give them that reaction, then they're just going to continue doing that. So
Yeah.
ignore them and move on. And that's just like that's the only advice I can give you is to ignore it and move on, because I feel like that's in life too. I mean, you run into people all the time. They're just like they want to do something that's going to get a reaction out of you to
Yeah.
bring you down to their level. And if you can keep above that, then like you're going to be one better off for it, and two,
Hmm.
less chaotic things are going to take place, and you can go away and talk to somebody about it and be like, so and so did this, and it's like it's a safe place. Like you can be as unfiltered as you want about it, and that's the one thing I've told my
Yeah.
kids. I'm like, you need to be unfiltered. You say, hey, I need to talk about Switzerland, and then boom, like unfiltered, like bring it out, what you got.
Switzerland. All right.
You're not going to get in any trouble. What we got. So yeah,
That's great.
I feel you,
That's great.
man. I'll tell
Well,
you.
we are
Yeah, we
running
are
out
at
of
it.
time, and I
Okay.
apologize for it. But I just wanted to bring up one thing. You said you listened to the show, and it's fine if you heard about us talking about Home Dad Con or not. But I want to let
Yeah.
you know we're in St. Louis in October. It is a fantastic convention. It's all about parenting. It's not like, poker and stag films. It's not a dad, thing like you'd think, 50 years ago or whatever. It's literally just like career development for people like you and I
Right.
who are just at home dads. And I just wanted to bring it up before we leave so that, at least that it's there. I'll probably be
Hmm.
posting it up on the local sites, might take it over to the library too and stuff like that and put up a flyer. But really want to encourage you because it's in St. Louis. It's not that far away. I'm driving down, but I'm taking the
Hmm.
whole week practically. So, but if you wanted to go the whole week, you could ride with me. But I want to invite you specifically because I'm going
Yeah,
to be
man.
inviting dads in our area,
Hmm.
because it's really a moment to one build community that you never really knew you needed, but to really define who you are as a father and how you can improve. And I think you sound like a great dad, and you have from the first conversation we had together. You really have a good head on your shoulders, and you have a lot of love in your heart, and that's really perfect for being the dad that you are. But I think we all want to be a little better every
Yeah.
year, every child, whatever. And I just want to encourage you to take a look at it. So before we end up, I didn't want to leave without saying that.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I'll consider it. It's tough with. I mean, I'm sure it's like this with all
Oh
the
yeah.
stay-at-home
You
dads.
know it, yeah.
It's
You're
like
speaking to the choir.
how do you mitigate? And I've kind of done it a little bit just because I took a study. I went abroad for a couple weeks in March. I went to Japan,
Yeah, you
and
did.
so
We didn't get to talk about that, man.
yeah, it's that trip of a life. Don't get me started on that. But
Yeah, we
it
can't. We have time. So
they mitigate the figuring that out and try to figure out the timing. It just works out that Jenna's schedule is fairly flexible, and she can do her work from wherever. But one thing I did want to mention, if you don't mind, is kind of combination of the things that I've already talked about: martial arts and my arts, being competitive and painting in public. I'm going to be doing a live painting tournament in June.
Ooh.
And I've done it once before. They had the first one. It's in Wauwatosa. They had it in Wauwatosa. It's called Art 64. What it is artists apply from anywhere in the nation. Although I think this year they opened it up to beyond the borders as well. Um, Anywhere in the nation
nice.
they can apply to be in this tournament. The way it works is it's like a bracket style event. Artist to artist, we have a certain amount of time to paint each round, and then the audience decides who moves on to the next round. And we do this for a few rounds until you get to the grand prize winner. The grand prize is 20K. Um,
Woo,
and so
nice.
I did it in 2021. I was a finalist. I got to the finals. So I just missed I was in the final eight because the finals was eight people. So I just missed it there. I didn't do it last year because I was working on a mural down in Madison at the time. And um, and so I applied this year. I got in out of like I don't know, over 300 people that applied from across the nation. I think a couple countries too. And so I'll be competing in that in June. I think it's June 6th and 7th or 7th and 8th, whatever that Friday, Saturday
Seven and
is.
eighth.
And and they opened it up to they have portions of it that's going to be online now this year. And so you don't even have to be in there in person. You can check out the results of each painting afterwards, and there's a window of time to vote. So anyone can vote. So if you're itching to see some cool art, or if you're in the Wauwatosa area, you can stop by and check it out. If you only can check it out online, the art, I think it's Art64 OSA, is the website, and they have all information there if you want to get updates and stuff. Um, and I encourage people to check it out and vote for their favorites. Obviously, I hope your favorite is me, but but in general, I generally want people to check it out and because it's a really cool competition, and I think a lot of artists are going to have fun. But it's me and 63 other people, and we'll see who comes out on top for the grand prize.
That's awesome. I pulled it up on the website, so I'll make sure that that gets in the show notes, and I'm gonna make sure that your other social media accounts get on there too, because I know like
Oh,
on your
awesome.
Instagram, like you've got some cool stuff on there. I see where you're posting some
Yeah.
stuff on TikTok and things like that too. So we'll definitely get those up, and that way people can take a look at it. And yeah, I definitely want to try to see if we can get more people to keep an eye on what you're doing in June, because that sounds like a really cool experience. I was looking at my schedule actually while you were talking. I'm like, do I have anything going on that weekend? Like, it's like I was like, I know people I
It's
can
super
stay
fun.
with up in Stevens Point. That's like
I mean, it's 2 hours for me. And if it's open, I ain't gonna be here. I'll be down there.
that's what I'm talking about. So, but yeah, man, we'll definitely
Share room.
get all that on there. But man, Kiba, it was a pleasure getting to talk with you. If it works out and you get to come to St. Louis, like that's a bonus. Like I would be super stoked to actually get to meet you in person. But even just our Discord server for Mondays and Thursday nights for Dad Lounge, like that's a great place to just hang out too. But yeah, man, I
What is
hope
that
that
called? Dad Lounge?
the Dad Lounge. Yeah, I'll get you a link for it, man, because
Okay,
it's
thanks.
through Discord server. So and then
Hmm.
we post everything on like a Zoom link type of deal like this. So it's just guys hanging around talking and chatting on Monday and Thursday nights. So it's a lot of fun.
Oh, cool. Sounds cool.
But
Usually
man,
after the kids go to bed.
yes, a lot of times it
That's
is,
you guys sitting there with like a coffee or perhaps an alcoholic drink, depending on how your day went. It's
depending
like,
on
okay, all right, let me tell you what my kid did.
yeah. Or they're like, you go take a bath. I'm gonna jump on for a few minutes. Like
Got to drop a
Yeah.
dad joke before I leave.
exactly. So
It's fun.
but yeah, man, we'll definitely get all that up so that get some exposure to you, because you're doing some great things, and definitely want to help with that. But man, thanks for coming on the show, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, good luck in June. I hope
Thanks.
big things for you there, and hopefully we'll
Let me
talk
know if
to
you
you
want me
again
to come
soon.
back.
Yeah, definitely. I want you to come down here, and I can show you around the murals here in Cincinnati at some point if you want to
Oh,
make a
that sounds
trip
awesome.
down. So
That
yeah.
sounds like a fun trip. I'd be willing to make that trip.
All right. Well, we'll talk further then. So cool. Well, other than that, we're good for this conversation, and we'll be back again next week talking about membership, and hopefully, I think we have another guest coming on, and
Mhm.
we'll continue down that track
Returning.
of returning guest. Yeah, and so
Mhm.
we'll continue down that track of just getting that much closer to Home Dad Con and all the other things that we do throughout the year. So until then, y'all have a good one.
Good night, everybody.
I'm a dad, that's what I do.